But this time it didn't work like it used to. Her explanations felt like patched-up lies trying to cover something deeper, a crack she didn't want me to notice. Even as she turned toward the window, ending the conversation, those seeds of doubt were already burrowing deep. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Every time Anthony was supposed to come over, Aria would spend hours getting ready. It wasn't just a quick touch-up. She'd meticulously apply makeup, style her hair, and pick out clothes that left little to the imagination. "Going somewhere special?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral as she slipped on a low-cut top. Aria barely glanced my way. "No, just want to look nice for company." Company. That's what she called my brother now. The visits were becoming more frequent, and each time, that knot in my stomach grew tighter. One evening, I overheard them laughing in the kitchen. I lingered in the hallway, out of sight. "Remember that time in high school?" Anthony's deep voice carried easily. "Shush," Aria giggled. "That's ancient history." My hands clenched involuntarily. What were they talking about? What happened in high school that I didn't know about? The suspicion ate at me, day and night. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep. Every time Aria's phone buzzed, I wondered if it was him. Every time she said she was going out with friends, I imagined her meeting Anthony instead. I hated myself for doubting her, for becoming this paranoid version of myself, but I couldn't shake the feeling that history was repeating itself. One sleepless night, I made a decision I never thought I'd make. I ordered some small, discreet cameras online. When they arrived, I felt sick to my stomach as I set them up around the house. This wasn't me. This wasn't who I wanted to be. But I needed to know the truth. For days, nothing happened. I started to feel guilty, thinking maybe I'd let my imagination run wild. Then, on a day I was supposed to be at work, I got an alert on my phone. My hands shook as I opened the app. There they were, in our living room. Aria and Anthony, tangled together on the couch where we'd spent countless evenings watching movies as a family. I felt like I was going to throw up. I closed the app, unable to watch anymore, but the damage was done. The images were burned into my brain. I couldn't go home. I couldn't face them. Not yet. I texted my buddy Mike, asking if I could crash at his place for a few days. I needed time to think, to process what I'd seen. As I drove to Mike's house, my mind raced. How long had this been going on? How could they do this to me? To our family? I spent the next few days in a daze, barely eating, barely sleeping. Mike tried to get me to talk about it, but I couldn't find the words. How do you describe the feeling of your whole world crumbling around you? Few days later, I sat in my lawyer's office, my hands trembling as I signed the divorce papers. The weight of what I was about to do pressed down on me, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't live with the betrayal anymore. "Are you sure about this?" Juan, my lawyer, asked, her eyes searching mine for any hint of hesitation. I nodded firmly. "Absolutely. It's time to end this charade." As I left the office, I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat. My thumb hovered over the send button for a moment before I steeled myself and pressed it. The video of Aria and Anthony on our couch appeared in the chat, followed by a simple message: "This is why I'm divorcing Aria." My phone exploded with notifications almost immediately. I turned it off, not ready to face the fallout just yet. The next few weeks were a blur of anger, tears, and accusations. Aria's parents showed up at our house, her mother's face twisted with disgust as she berated her daughter. Anthony's wife packed up their kids and left, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. "Aria tried everything to change my mind," she cried, begged and pleaded. "Juan, please," she sobbed one night, grabbing my arm as I packed my things. "It was a mistake. I love you. We can work through this." I yanked my arm away, my voice cold. "No, Aria, we can't. Not this time." The custody battle was brutal. Aria fought tooth and nail, but her infidelity worked against her. When the judge awarded me primary custody of our daughter, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. I never wanted it to come to this, but I had to protect my little girl. As I walked out of the courtroom, I saw Anthony standing in the hallway. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I saw regret flicker across his face. But then I remembered everything he'd done, and anger surged through me. I turned away, ignoring his attempt to speak to me. "My parents called later that day. We've told Anthony he's no longer welcome at family gatherings," my mother said, her voice tight with disappointment. "What he did, it's unforgivable." I sighed, feeling a pang of loss for the brother I once had. Thanks, Mum, I appreciate your support. As I hung up, I looked around the new apartment I'd rented for me and my daughter. It was a fresh start, away from the memories and pain of the past. Aria's latest text flashed on my phone screen, begging for another chance. I deleted it without reading it fully. Life after everything that came crashing down has been. Well, it's not easy, but it's getting there. The apartment is smaller than the house was, more cramped, but it's starting to feel like home. I'm trying to focus on the important stuff, my daughter, mostly. She's the reason I push through each day. I'm learning to be a father on my own, juggling work, daycare, and the million other things that come with single parenthood. It's exhausting, but when she looks up at me with those big brown eyes of hers, I know I have to keep going. Aria, though she's like a shadow that just won't leave, no matter how hard I try to shake her off. A few weeks ago she texted, asking if we could meet for coffee and talk. For our daughter's sake, she'd said. I never responded. What's there to say? Every time I see her name pop up on my phone screen, it's like a wound reopening. I know she's dealing with the fallout too. I heard her parents haven't spoken to her since everything went down. Even Anthony has gone quiet, no doubt wrapped up in his own mess now that his wife is filing for divorce as well. But sympathy is out the window. Whatever weight I carry isn't something I'm willing to share with her anymore. Aria's path hasn't been easy. I hear snippets from mutual friends, see the strain on our daughter's face after visits. The affair with Anthony imploded spectacularly, leaving them both outcasts in our tight-knit community. Last I heard, she was working at a small marketing firm 2 towns over, trying to piece her life back together. She reaches out sometimes, usually around our daughter's birthday or holidays. Her voice is always tentative, laden with regret. I keep the conversations short, civil. For our daughter's sake, I've learned to coexist with Aria's presence on the periphery of our lives.